If I were buying a condo today, especially in retirement, there are 8 questions I would personally ask before signing anything. And it's not about the granite countertops, it's not about square footage, it's not about how low maintenance it sounds. These 8 structural, financial, and lifestyle questions, because without asking these questions, you could be making a very expensive financial mistake or buying into a lifestyle that doesn't actually really fit what you want your retirement to look like or want. And the difference matters far more than for people in retirement than they realize. So buying a condo is not just buying, a smaller home. It's buying into a corporation. It's buying into a governance structure, a reserve fund, a board of directors, a long-term maintenance plan that you do not fully control. So today, I'm walking you through the exact 8 questions I would ask before buying and why each one matters. And across Guelph, KW, and Cambridge, I'm seeing more retirees seriously consider condos. Detached homes are great, but they are more expensive to maintain. Insurance is higher, repairs are higher, contractors are often harder to book, and at the same time, condo inventory in certain segments has increased over the past couple of years. And in some months, condos have taken much longer to sell than detached homes. And that really creates negotiating opportunities for buyers in that scenario. So on the surface, condos can look really appealing: less maintenance, more freedom, possibly unlocking equity from a larger home. But moving from a detached home into a condo is not simply downsizing square footage. It's a structural shift in ownership, and that's really key. So if you're going to make that shift, these are the 8 questions I would ask personally. Number 1, you're buying into a corporation, not a unit. That corporation owns and manages the building. You own your unit, but you also own a percentage of the common elements in that building or condo corporation. So that includes hallways, elevators, roof, parking garages, and the landscaping. So that corporation has a board of directors, usually made up of volunteer owners, and they oversee a number of things like budgeting, maintenance planning, hiring the property management team, approving major repairs, and enforcing the condo rules. So they are responsible for maintaining a multi-million-dollar asset on behalf of all the owners. And when you owned a detached home, you were the board. You decided when to fix something, how much to spend, and whether to delay a repair. In a condo, those decisions are all collective. In retirement, many people value predictability and control more than ever because they want to manage their money. And condo ownership requires a willingness to share that control. That's not bad, but it is very different, and different requires awareness on your part. Number 2, condo fees don't go down. In all my years of real estate, I've never seen condo fees decrease. They can remain stable for a period of time, but buildings age and costs rise. Insurance increases, utilities increase, labor increases, regulations change. Condo fees pay for legitimate expenses: snow removal, landscaping, roof replacement, elevators, windows, parking garages, keeping the hallways clean, building insurance. So if you stayed in your detached home, you would still pay for those things. The difference is structure and timing. In a house, expenses arrive individually and typically unpredictably. In a condo, they are structured monthly and shared among all the owners. So the key question is not whether fees are high. I think the key question is whether they are realistic and properly managed. Low condo fees in an older building can really be a red flag. It may mean the reserve fund is underfunded and future increases are likely. So be aware of what the condo fees cover and what has been replaced in recent years. Number 3, the reserve fund is everything. Let me say that again. The reserve fund is everything. Every condo corporation in Ontario must complete a reserve fund study every 3 years. Engineers evaluate the building and estimate when major components will need replacing and how much money should be saved in advance for those replacements. Now, the major components include things like roofs and elevators, windows, balconies, parking garages, and mechanical systems. Now, these are not minor expenses. They are significant capital projects that can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and even millions of dollars. A healthy reserve fund often means the building is planning responsibly. Sometimes that means slightly higher condo fees. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. It can actually indicate proactive management. They're saving ahead. So when reviewing a status certificate, I look for adequate reserve balances and realistic projections on things. No deferred maintenance and no major upcoming projects without funding already there. So once you buy, you inherit the building's financial history. And in retirement, stability really matters. You want predictability from a reserve fund, not surprises. Number 4, special assessments. They can be expensive. And if a reserve fund then doesn't have enough money to cover the major repair, as I just mentioned, owners are assessed for the shortfall. So this is called a special assessment. Every owner pays a proportionate share based on their percentages of ownership in the entire building. So it may sound small, 0.5%, 0.75%. But if a project costs $5 million, even a small percentage can translate into tens of thousands of dollars. You know, I had a listing where the windows had to be replaced and the board had pushed increasing the condo fees to save money. And I sold one of the smallest units in this particular building. It had beautiful Florida ceiling windows, and the share of the special assessment for that unit was $40,000 for those windows. So keeping condo fees suppressed was just simply kicking the can down the road for the expense. And that's not a minor inconvenience in retirement. That's really a serious financial event. And special assessments often occur in buildings where reserve funds were underfunded to keep fees artificially low. So it feels good in the short term, it really hurts later on. And here's the thing with special assessments. You don't get to choose when they happen. Number 5, you give up full control. In a detached home, you decide everything. You choose when to replace the roof, when to paint your front door and what color, and how to landscape your property. In a condo, exterior changes must follow building rules. Renovations may require board approval. You know, budgets and major repair timelines are voted on collectively. And after decades of full autonomy, that adjustment can feel larger than expected. For some retirees, that structure feels relieving because it reduces decision making, gives you some freedom to go away. For others, it feels restrictive. This is not about whether condos are good or bad. It really comes down to whether the structure aligns with your personality and expectations. I mean, you need to understand, are you willing to live in a community with shared responsibility? Number 6, storage and layout matter more than you think. Many new condos are designed for efficiency of space. Let me explain. That means minimal storage. There's no basement, no attic, no extra room for overflow. So where will you keep your seasonal decorations, luggage, important paperwork, or winter gear? If your unit has its own furnace or HVAC system inside, which is great, the mechanical closet that it sits in typically offers little additional storage. So older condos, more often than not, provide larger layouts, more generous closets, and concrete construction that reduces sound transfer. However, older buildings must be evaluated carefully for upcoming capital repairs. You don't want to be facing a special assessment that I just talked about. And the square footage does not determine livability. Functional, usable space actually does. So before you buy, walk through the condo unit, of course, and ask yourself whether it truly supports your daily life. Think of where things are going to go beforehand. Planning is important when moving from a detached home with lots of space into a condo. Number 7, pets rules are not what people think in Ontario. Condo corporations are separate legal entities. They are not governed by the Residential Tenancy Act in the way that rental properties are. So condo corporations can create their own bylaws regarding pets. They can prohibit pets entirely. They can restrict the number of dogs or cats allowed. They can impose size or breed restrictions. They can regulate birds and even limit the size of fish tanks. If you violate those bylaws, property management can issue a formal notice on behalf of the board saying you can't have that pet. If unresolved, the matter then gets escalated legally. Fighting a condo board over a non-compliant pet can be really emotionally draining, stressful, and costly at times. So the one exception is registered service dogs. They cannot be discriminated against, and they're permitted in common areas. They are absolutely allowed. So if you have a pet or plan to get one, read the bylaws carefully before buying. And here's number 8. How important is outdoor space really? Outdoor space is often underestimated. I learned this during COVID when it became very important. Does the condo have a balcony? Is it private, or are you one balcony in a row without dividers or little privacy? What direction does the balcony face? A south-facing balcony may receive full sun all day, and a north-facing, you may mostly be in shade. And if you plan to grow plants, sunlight really matters. So if you prefer cooler space, indirect light may be ideal. And are there pigeon issues? Yep, that is a concern. Pigeons can become a nuisance and difficult to remove once they settle in. I know this from when my mother lived in her condo. Can balconies be enclosed to create a 3-season room? Some buildings allow it, others prohibit it. And what about barbecues? Are they permitted on balconies? How much can you store on your balcony? Balconies are often considered common elements, and you have exclusive use of it. So they have the right, the board, to put in place rules about how much stuff and what type of stuff can be stored on your balcony because they're common space and they look after it. Boards may restrict carpeting, glued flooring, certain coverings, because they maintain the exterior structure of the building. And if the building doesn't have balconies, is there a rooftop terrace or shared outdoor space for people to use? Outdoor living can significantly impact quality of life in retirement, and these details really matter more than people actually realize. Condos absolutely work. They provide shared maintenance, walkability, and often strong sense of community. They are a shift for people, financial shifts, structural shifts, and lifestyle shifts. So when that shift aligns with your income, your personality, and your expectations, a condo can make retirement lighter and really much more manageable, but only if you go in informed. Ask better questions before you buy, because what you overlook at purchase can become very expensive, both financially and emotionally, later on for you. And if you're thinking about downsizing and would like help reviewing a specific building or have more questions about status certificates, reach out. The questions you ask before buying matter far more than the finishes ever will. And here's another video you may find helpful.